procurement for a small business, it can feel like a jigsaw puzzle, you know?
Yeah.
But without the picture on the box to help you out, and we're all juggling like a million things, right?
Right.
So it's easy to let it fall by the wayside.
It's true. You're busy actually running a business, not like
Right.
writing a thesis on your supply chain.
Exactly. But what if we told you there are frameworks out there, like tried and tested strategies to navigate the procurement maze and unlock real value?
Think of them as like ready-made solutions for common business challenges that others have honed, so you can just adapt and implement them.
Okay, that clicks for me. So today we're doing a deep dive into a blog post about 6 powerful frameworks designed to, I guess, supercharge your small business procurement.
Yeah, and we'll unpack how these frameworks can help you streamline all your processes, make smarter decisions, and honestly free up your bandwidth so you can get back to doing what you do best, running the business.
I love that. Now let's talk alignment. This blog post really emphasizes that even with the best procurement strategy in the world, if your team's not on the same page or your company culture, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, imagine you have a rowing team, and everyone is rowing in different directions.
Okay.
You're expending energy, maybe even working hard, but you're not making any progress.
Yeah.
That's what happens when, like, your internal systems, how you do things, and your overall business strategy aren't aligned.
That makes sense. So how do we avoid this whole rowing in a circle scenario?
Yeah.
This is where I guess the first framework comes in, the McKinsey 7S framework, right?
Absolutely. So think about your own business. You've got the structure of your business, your overall strategy, the systems that you use every day to get things done, the shared values.
Your culture.
Exactly. The culture, how you approach problems, all that's wrapped up in there. Then you've got the actual skills that your team possesses, your leadership style. And of course, the staff themselves.
Yeah.
So the 7S framework basically says that all of these elements need to be rowing in the same direction for your business to truly thrive.
Okay, so let's say my company wants to be known for its sustainability, but my procurement process still involves sourcing from suppliers with, questionable environmental practices.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of misalignment. Your actions aren't reflecting your stated values, and that can create confusion and inefficiency. And not to mention potentially harming your reputation.
That's a really good point. It's not enough to just talk the talk. Our procurement needs to walk the walk, too.
Exactly. So the 7S framework helps you identify those disconnects and start to make adjustments. Like, are your current systems and processes actually supporting your goals? Are your employees equipped to make sustainable choices?
Yeah. It's like holding up a mirror to your entire operation and seeing where you might be out of sync.
And sometimes what we find lurking beneath the surface can be even more surprising.
Ooh, this sounds juicy. What do you mean?
Well, sometimes it's not even the official policies that trip us up. It's those unspoken rules, the "that's how we've always done it" kind of thing, that might actually be holding us back. That's where this next framework comes in, the cultural web.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about this cultural web and how it applies to procurement.
Okay, so you get your credit card bill, and you're shocked by how much you're spending.
Every time.
Right. You dig a little deeper and you discover all these recurring subscription fees for services you don't even use.
Ugh, I hate it when that happens.
Right.
You think you're being budget conscious, but those hidden fees, man, they get you.
Exactly. The cultural web helps us uncover those hidden fees in our business culture. It helps us see how those subtle, unspoken practices are impacting our procurement decisions.
Give me an example. What kind of things does this cultural web unearth?
So it could be anything from relying on a single supplier because you have this long-standing relationship with them,
Right.
even if you know there are better deals out there.
Wow. Yeah.
Or maybe avoiding new technology because that's not how we've ever done it.
Wow. I can definitely see how those unspoken rules could influence your decision making, even if no one realizes it's happening.
Exactly. And that's the power of this framework. It brings those hidden influences into the open, allowing you to make more conscious and strategic choices.
So it's not about erasing those practices entirely, but it's about understanding how they might be impacting our bottom line and deciding if it's time to switch things up.
Exactly. Having that awareness so you can make the best decisions for your business. You're not just stuck doing what you've always done.
I like that. This is already making me rethink some of our internal processes.
And we're just getting started. The blog post goes on to highlight 2 more frameworks that are designed to optimize your processes for maximum value, starting with Porter's value chain.
Okay.
And that helps you pinpoint areas to cut costs or add even more value for your customers.
So that's something that every small business owner wants to hear. Let's dive into that next. Porter's value chain. It sounds kind of like official,
Right.
like something you'd learn in business school, but you're telling me it can actually help me save money.
Absolutely. Don't let the name intimidate you. It's a really useful tool.
Yep.
Imagine your business as a chain, right?
Okay.
And each link in that chain represents a different stage in your procurement process.
Okay.
So from sourcing your materials all the way to getting your product into your customer's hands.
Okay, I can visualize that. So are we talking about like finding the weak links in that chain and fixing them?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
But Porter's value chain is more about finding opportunities within each link
Okay.
to either become more efficient, so you're cutting costs, or you're adding even more value that wows your customers.
Right.
And actually, the blog post made a really good point about this. For small businesses, often the biggest wins come from improving what's called inbound logistics.
Inbound logistics. See, that sounds kind of like technical to me.
Yeah, it sounds very jargony.
Are we talking about like warehouse optimization or something?
Exactly. Think about how you receive, store, and manage all those incoming materials.
Right.
Streamlining that can make a huge difference.
Yeah. Less time wasted searching for things.
Yes.
Fewer delays, less storage space.
You're optimizing that link in the chain, which not only reduces costs directly, but then you have all these other resources freed up that you can reinvest.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe now you can afford that higher quality material you've had your eye on,
Right.
or you can offer faster shipping to your customers.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see how like one smart change can have this ripple effect on the entire business.
Precisely. And speaking of change, right?
Yeah.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Change can be hard.
Oh, yeah.
You might have the best procurement strategy in the world, but actually implementing it.
Tell me about it. We tried switching over to a new inventory management system a while back, and let's just say it did not go as planned.
Yeah.
Some employees were resistant to like learning the new software, and we had a few, hiccups along the way.
That's totally understandable.
Yeah.
But there's a framework for navigating these choppy waters of change, and it's called force field analysis.
Force field analysis. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
It's all about mapping out, like literally writing down the forces that are either driving the change or holding it back.
Okay.
So in the case of your inventory management system, those driving forces might have been increased accuracy, maybe even saving time.
Right. We were hoping to get rid of those manual spreadsheets once and for all. They were the bane of my existence.
But as you experienced, there are often these restraining forces too.
Yeah.
The things that create resistance.
Which, in our case was definitely some hesitation from the team
Right.
to fully embrace the new system.
The power of this framework is that it forces you to acknowledge both sides,
Okay.
the push and the pull.
Right.
And then you can develop strategies to either strengthen the positive or find ways to address the negative.
So instead of just like charging ahead with our awesome new system, we should have maybe anticipated that there might be some bumps in the road and had a plan to address them.
Exactly. And often that involves addressing the very human element of change. The blog post gave a good example about the resistance to the software implementation.
Yeah.
One of the keys there is just providing really thorough training and support for your team, right? Making them feel more comfortable and confident with the transition.
That makes sense. If our team had felt fully, supported and prepared, I think we probably could have avoided some headaches.
Totally. It's about bringing everyone along on the journey.
Yeah.
And speaking of journeys, the business landscape's constantly shifting. So how do you make sure your procurement practices are flexible enough to adapt?
Right.
That's where our next two frameworks come in. Lean versus agile supply chains.
Okay, so I hear those terms tossed around a lot. Lean and agile. Honestly, I'm not always sure I understand the difference, let alone how they apply to my business.
It's a common point of confusion. Let me give you a relatable example.
Yeah.
Imagine you walk into a restaurant.
Okay.
A lean restaurant is going to have a set menu, ingredients prepped in bulk to maximize efficiency, minimize waste.
Right.
Perfect if you value like predictability and consistency.
Got it. They know exactly what they're making, how much of it. They can optimize their inventory, keep things running smoothly.
Now imagine a different restaurant, an agile one.
Okay.
This place is all about flexibility, customization. They might have a smaller menu, but they're ready to adapt to your order.
Okay.
Even if it means like making something off menu.
Okay, so I see the difference. So how do these restaurant styles, I guess, translate over to procurement?
So think of it this way. A lean supply chain is great if you have pretty consistent demand for your products. You can forecast your needs, negotiate bulk discounts with suppliers, you keep things streamlined.
Right.
But if you're in a market with maybe fluctuating demand, constantly evolving trends, you're offering a highly customizable product.
Then an agile approach makes more sense. You need to be able to pivot quickly,
Exactly.
adjust your orders,
Yeah,
maybe even work with a wider range of suppliers just to keep up.
precisely. The blog post gave a good example.
Yeah.
Products with a strong seasonal demand,
Okay.
like pumpkin spice lattes.
Right?
They would really benefit from an agile supply chain.
Yeah.
You don't want to be stuck with a ton of inventory.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It highlights how important it is to really understand your own market
Yes.
and choose the approach that's going to be the best fit for you.
Exactly.
But even with the most agile and efficient procurement process, isn't there always the risk of falling behind?
Oh, for
Because
sure.
things are moving so fast these days.
You need to be proactive, not just reacting to what's happening,
Yeah.
but anticipating.
Right.
That's where our final framework comes in. The innovation diffusion model.
Okay.
It sounds very complex, but it's really just about understanding how new ideas, and technologies especially, spread throughout a market.
So it's like being able to spot the next big thing.
Yeah, like you're an early adopter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before it even becomes mainstream. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, you've got your finger on the pulse. The blog post talked about how crucial strong supplier relationships are for this,
Yeah.
especially in those rapidly evolving markets, so that you can stay ahead of the curve.
So it's not just about getting the best price today. It's about fostering those partnerships.
Yeah.
That will, give you an edge tomorrow.
That's strategic thinking. Imagine you're working with a supplier who's on the cutting edge of, let's say, sustainable packaging.
Right.
And because you have that relationship with them, you're one of the first to know about it. You might even get early access.
That's huge.
Yeah. It's about thinking beyond just that transaction. It's nurturing those connections that'll pay off down the road.
I'm really seeing the value in that long-term thinking. These frameworks aren't just about, optimizing the day-to-day. They're about creating a more resilient business overall.
That's a great point. It's about connecting the dots, understanding how all these different pieces fit together to create a bigger picture.
So we've covered a lot here. We talked about aligning your team and your culture, embracing change, anticipating the future. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure we distill these frameworks down into some actionable takeaways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's bring it all home with some key takeaways and maybe a final thought-provoking question.
So much good stuff. But for anyone listening who might be feeling a little, overwhelmed by all these frameworks, what's the one thing you really want them to walk away with today?
You don't have to do everything at once.
Right. That would be a lot.
Yeah, trying to overhaul your entire procurement process overnight is probably going to cause more problems than it solves.
Definitely.
Instead, think about what your biggest pain point is right now. Is it communicating with your suppliers? Are they driving you crazy?
Right.
Are you just struggling to keep up with the market? Once you've zeroed in on that pain point, then you can choose the framework that feels most relevant and apply it to that specific challenge.
So start small, pick one thing.
Exactly. Maybe you use the cultural web to see if there's a disconnect between your sustainability goals and who you're actually sourcing from.
Yeah.
Or you can start mapping out your whole process using Porter's value chain and see if there's some quick wins where you can save some money.
Yeah, make those little tweaks that can make a big difference.
And remember, these frameworks, they aren't just about numbers and logistics, right? They're about relationships.
Yeah, that's so important because at the end of the day, business is about people.
Exactly. Use these frameworks to communicate better with your team, make decisions together, and build those win-win relationships with your suppliers.
I love that. So it's almost like a mindset shift. Procurement doesn't have to be this dreaded thing on your to-do list.
Right.
It can be this opportunity to really, connect with people and build a stronger business.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. And we want to make sure you have the resources to do it. We'll be sure to link to some more information about all of this in the show notes.
Perfect. Always learning. Right. But before we wrap up, I do want to leave our listeners with a final thought. We've talked about all these powerful frameworks and how to use them.
Right.
But the human element, how can we really use these tools, not just to, make things more efficient, but to strengthen the relationships that are so important to making this all work?
That's such a good question, because that's when the magic really happens, when you can combine strategic thinking with a human touch.
Love that. On that note, we'll leave you to ponder that very question. Until next time.